Hello, my lanky droogs. We're going down the shops today. I'm going to give you a music lesson at the shops. Are you ready? So why are we giving a music lesson at the shops? Well, I'll tell you why we're giving a music lesson at the shops, folks. Because music is not something that should be hidden away in a rehearsal room, in a dark room, in the corner, out of sight. Music's something that every human being should partake in. It's your heritage, man. It's your heritage. What I'm going to give you today is a very, very, very simple, very practical way to understand the major scale, okay? Okay, so first of all, you've got to understand what a scale is. A scale is a sequence of notes. That's it. We go from one note to the next note to the next note. There's lots and lots and lots of different kind of scales. We identify scales based on the gaps in between the notes. If you come to a supermarket before in Australia, you'll notice that music is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. They have it piping through the speakers. But that music's not for you. That's not for the common people. That's yours to be subject to. It's not yours to involve in. To help us understand the major scale, here's the first thing we're going to buy today. All right? All right, here's the next thing we're going to buy to help us understand the major scale. Nice little bag of Post-it notes. So I'm going to get this one. All right, a couple of Sharpies. That'll do us nicely. Shebang, we're all ready to understand the major scale. Let's go check out. All right, hello. So we've got everything we need to tell you about what the major scale is and where it comes from, but there's a couple of things we've got to explain beforehand. And the first one is what I like to call the musician's alphabet, or in other words, all the notes that we use and the names of the notes that we use when we organise music, when we talk about what note to play. So have a look at this. There are 12 of them, okay? Have a look at this. Just like the normal alphabet, right? We start with an A. Keep in mind though, I'm just starting on the A to help you understand this. There's no real actual start in the musician's alphabet. You can start on any note you want, but just so you get it clear in your head, we're going to start on A just like the normal English alphabet. So here we go. First note is A. You notice this one doesn't have a name? We'll skip over him to the B. So there's the B. Now you'll notice between the B and the C, there's nothing in between the B and the C. It goes straight to C. But after the C, there's a gap, right? So we go over that gap to the D. You'll notice there's a bottle here in between the D and the E, right? But then we get to E, and you notice that E doesn't have a gap. It goes straight to F. This is really important, right? I'll come back to this in a second. Then we've got a gap, and then the last one there is a G. And if you look very closely, there's a bottle without a name after the G. So here's what you need to understand about the musician's alphabet. There are two pairs of notes that don't have a gap in between them. First one, B, C, and the second one, E, F. Right. Those notes in between, they have names. They're real notes. They're actual notes, right? Here's how we deal with them. At first, you're going to think this is crazy, this is illogical. Why don't you just go A, B, C, D, blah, 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 blah. There is a very good reason for this, but you're not going to understand it later. So what I'm going to get you to do is suspend your disbelief, right? Suspend your disbelief and just understand this. This is the way that the musician's alphabet operates. If I start at the A, right, what I want you to think of, imagine these bottles, each bottle being a fretboard on your instrument, ukulele, banjo, guitar, right? First fret, second fret, third fret. Each note has a fret, right? So, let's say this one here is A, right? And I move up into the next space here. I move up into the next space. If I get to this note here, by going up, I call it A sharp. A sharp. I'm going to put that on the bottle right now. All right, so there's our first weird in-between note. These notes are called accidentals for some reason. They're real notes. There's nothing, they're neither stronger or weaker than the other notes. They're real ones, but we have to call them this. Okay, so get in the habit of calling this. If I get to this note by going up, I call it a sharp, right? I go from the A sharp, up one more fret, I get to the B. Now remember, there's no sharps between B and C. B goes straight to C. But if I get to the C and I go up, C sharp, isn't it? So let's put C sharp on the board. All right, so far so good. You getting this? Okay, so now I go up from C sharp. I go up another step. I go up one little gap, one fretboard, one fret, and I get to D. And if I go from the D up one more, yes indeed, I got a D sharp. Right? This is going to keep happening. D sharp. Now we're at the next part where there's no sharps or flat. I go from the D sharp to the E, right? I go straight to the F. There's no E sharp. E sharp is F, okay? So I'm at the F, right? Now if I'm at the F, I'm going up. You guessed it. Are you smart? Are you getting this? Do you preempt this? The next one I'm going to say is F sharp. So let's put F sharp on the board. All right. Now, if I'm at the G, I'm going to come around the other side. Hold on a second. Hello. Now I'm on the other side, right? Because it's too far to reach. This is the last note of the musician's alphabet. After this note, I'm going to put this on after the G. What happens after the G? Well, after the G, we go G sharp. Now, after the G sharp, there'll be another A there. Over there. We start again, right? So it just goes A sharp, B, C, C sharp. I'm about to get asked if I have a permit. Watch this. A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B, C, forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Okay?
You're playing a game of chess.
Not yet. No, ma'am, I'm not. Sorry. Doing a music lesson. All right. So these both notes are called sharp, right? But if I get to those in-between notes going the other way, going down, then I've got to call them something else. If I go up, I call them sharps. That's the symbol for sharp. If I get to that note by going down, I call them flats. That's the symbol for flats. Let's see what I mean, right? Let's have a look at what I mean. All right, here I am over the other side again. Now, do you remember old mate A sharp? Well, this time I'm not going to get to the A sharp by going from A to B. I'm going to get to the A sharp by going B and dropping down. And we call that A sharp B flat. Yeah, that note has two names, A sharp and B flat. It's the same note. So here's my B flat. Now I'm at the B, right? Now let's say I got to that B from the C. Well, there's no in-between note there, so C goes straight to B. C flat is B. But let's go up to this one here. See the D? Now if I go to that D, if I get to that note in between with the D, I'm going to call it this, D flat. And here's the note between the D and the E. Guess what I'm going to call him? Yep, I'm going to call him E flat. All right, now here I am with the G, right? But I'm getting to this note here that used to be the F sharp. I'm going down to get it. I'm going from the G towards the F. I'm not going from the F towards the G. So because I'm going from the G, I'm calling it a G flat. What about this guy on the end here? What do I call him? Well, the guy on the end, remember, musician's alphabet goes A, B, C, D, E, F, G, starts again. A, B, C. Does this forever and ever and ever. So imagine that we're going to start again here. That note's going to be A, right? So if that note's going to be A and I'm getting to that note by there, here's what I'm going to do. A flat. All right, now you'll notice these accidental notes, they've got two notes on either side. One is sharp, one is flat. That's the symbol for sharp. And that little looking B fella, that's the symbol for B flat. What we have here, folks, is a scale. We have a line of notes, right? The gaps between those notes are the same between every note, right? If I go from one fret to one fret to one fret to one fret, that means I'm going one semitone, one semitone, one semitone, one semitone. All right, so the pattern goes like this. A, go up. Oh, look out. I'm going up. Can't call it B flat if I'm going up. Got to call it A sharp. From here, one semitone, one semitone, one semitone. Oh, can't call it D flat because I'm going up. Call it B, call it C sharp. Call it C sharp, call it C sharp, right? Okay, so semitone, semitone, semitone. Oh, can't do that one. Oh, that's the wrong one. So every gap between every note is exactly one semitone. If we play that scale, we'll be going semitone, 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 semitone. That's a scale. It's called the chromatic scale. All right, but it's basically the musician's alphabet. Now, here's what I wanted to teach you guys today. I want to teach you what the major scale is, all right? Because remember what I said about scales. Scales are a sequence of notes, okay? They're a sequence of notes, and we identify what a scale is by the gaps in between it. The formal scale, the beginning and genesis of Western music theory, right? This is the scale we use. The reason why I want you to learn this scale, the reason why it's so important, because every single thing we talk about in music, we talk about it based on how it was altered from the major scale. So the major scale has a definite pattern. It has tones, big jumps, like so it'll jump over some of those accidental notes, and some notes it has semitones. It'll go right next to them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the gaps of the major scale, but instead of starting on A, I'm going to start on the note of C and see what happens, okay? See what happens. All right, so I've set them all up. Now let's look at the chromatic scale starting on the key of C, right? We go C, remember we're going up. So C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, and B. The next one we'd put in that order would be C, all right? Cool. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in the gaps of the major scale. Gaps of the major scale are this. Big jump, little jump, big jump, big jump, big jump, and the last one is a little jump. That last little jump gets us back to C. Let's have a look at what that looks like, all right? So, big jump, big jump, little jump, big jump, big jump, big jump. That gets me to B, right, the seventh note. If I do a little jump from there, I start again. And it goes on and on and on forever. So the C major scale, you'll notice, all yellow. No sharps, no flats, because the jumps match up exactly with the two notes that don't have any sharps or flats. That's not the case for every major scale. We'll look at that tomorrow, all right? So what I want you to understand today, as everyone walks around and looks at me, remember we're doing music out in public, we're not away in a rehearsal room, it's everybody's heritage, it shouldn't be hidden away. You can learn it, you can practice it, all right? Listen up. So, the C major scale. Big jump, little jump, big jump, big jump, big jump, little jump to get us back home. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. It doesn't matter what note you start on. Today we started on C, and it gave us no sharps or flats. Tomorrow, I'll show you what happens when we don't start on C. All right? Is that all right? Do you want some tucker? Do you want a snack? Do you want to grab a yogurt or something? Should we grab a yogurt or something? Did you enjoy that? Thank you.